Scalia died last February, Senate Republicans declared that he would not be replaced in an election year. That action was unprecedented. They refused to hold hearings, much less vote on President Obama's eminently qualified nominee, Merrick Garland. So the court remained at only 8 members for nearly a year. As soon as Donald Trump is inaugurated, he will nominate a new justice. Will Democrats respond in kind? Should they? Joining me now, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee who's going to have some say in this matter, Delaware Senator Chris Coons. Senator, you told me yesterday on Sirius XM radio that you think Republicans stole a seat on the Supreme Court of the United States. Are you going to let them get away with it?
Well, Michael, what I think we have to do is to continue to uphold the role of the Senate, our constitutional role, and provide advice, but not necessarily consent to a nomination of a Supreme Court justice. The Republicans held this seat open for nearly a year by refusing to not have a hearing and not have a vote. I think we should have a hearing, and I think we should have a vote, because I don't think it's fair and responsible for us to do the same thing to them that they've done to us and continue to grind farther downward any possibility of our respect and support for the Supreme Court. But to be clear, I don't think that we should vote to confirm a Supreme Court nominee who is well outside the mainstream of American legal jurisprudence.
What's your gut on the list that was put forth by candidate Trump as to those of the individuals that he would contemplate putting on the Supreme Court? I don't know that you've studied the list, but do you have a gut feel for them?
I know a few of them. I do not know all of them. And so you're asking me for a gut feel. He was a candidate at the time running to try and win over the most conservative elements of the Republican Party. So my hunch or my assumption is that he may at that point have been putting forward names that would be among the most conservative he could possibly find among potential candidates. Let's roll back here to the weeks after Justice Scalia passed away. Before President Obama nominated someone to the Supreme Court, I was calling on him to nominate a consensus confirmable candidate. And in Judge Merrick Garland, the Chief Judge of the D.C. Circuit, he certainly did that. Judge Garland, who is among the most seasoned, most senior circuit court judges in the entire United States, has been confirmed by the Senate of the United States by overwhelming bipartisan votes in the past. He is not a partisan bomb thrower. He's not a judge who has a record of dividing. Rather, he is a judge who has a record of leadership and of consensus and of uniting the D.C. Circuit. It's my hope that President-elect Trump will turn away from the bitter partisan warfare over this empty Supreme Court seat, change direction, and nominate someone who is confirmable. But that's not what the list put forward by President-elect Trump as a candidate would suggest.
I played sound going out of my last segment of Mitch McConnell. Catherine, do we have that McConnell sound? Can I quickly roll that again for Chris Coons? If you do, roll it. I want to ask a question.
Apparently there's yet a new standard now, which is to not confirm a Supreme Court nominee at all. I think that's something the American people simply will not tolerate.
But that's what they did to Garland, right? I mean, that's exactly what the GOP just did to Judge Garland.
It is not only exactly what they just did to Garland, what they did was even worse. They refused to even hold a hearing, let alone give him a vote in committee, let alone give him a vote on the floor. And I think in the 100-year history of the Senate Judiciary Committee on which I serve, this has never previously happened, where a nominee for the Supreme Court, I think there were 2 exceptions where the nominees themselves withdrew. But I think it has never happened that the American people were denied an opportunity to get a sense of what that nominee would be like by having thorough hearings. And I just want to bring us ahead to next week, if I could briefly, Michael. We're going to have confirmation hearings on the Judiciary Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee, and 5 other committees next week as the Trump administration, the President-elect Trump's folks, his allies in Congress, try to rush through their nominees for Attorney General and Secretary of State and EPA Secretary and a dozen other major positions all in 1 week. That will largely prevent us from doing our jobs as senators of having thorough and detailed and constructive hearings that the American people can absorb in a timely way.
That is not right. Senator Coons, thank you as always. I appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Michael.
This week, the